Welcome to our panel. Oh, I've got a logo over my face. It's a bit of an improvement, but I should probably take that off. I love that I still have the blank template of this. This is our wonderful logo that was designed by Scott Wolfson of Scott Wolfson and the Other Heroes. Why am I having trouble taking it? There we go. And that is the official logo for our event this year with our merch. I am Ethan Baird, the executive director of NERFA. I'm looking a little bit more casual than usual because I was just making pizzas. So from pizzas to talking about conferences, this panel is probably going to talk more about the conferences than the pizzas, though you never know. We're here to talk specifically about making the most of your panel, or not your panel, but rather your conference at all. This is a worthwhile conversation to have even when we're not talking about this new format of virtual conferencing. But it's even more important now for folks that are trying to figure out how this new world is going to treat us. So we've got three absolutely spectacular musicians and community members here to talk us through their strategies and what they do to make the most of these events. And I'm gonna show my East Coast bias. We're doing this panel twice today, once at 7 p.m. Eastern time, one at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I will probably be more biased for the West Coast for our second version. For the first version, we'll go East Coast. And I want to introduce one of my favorite people, Rory Kelly, to the panel. Rory is a spectacular singer-songwriter out of Long Island. And how many NERFAs have you been to now?
Like enough that I'm old, enough that I feel I'm old.
Well, I think that's the wonderful thing about our scene in general is you can feel old, but we're still young. We're always young, young at heart.
Right. It's a much less like ageist community than any other music scene I've found.
I feel that way. But I'm also continually called young. But the fact that I'm 40 and I'm routinely called young, I think speaks to the fact that we're not quite so much.
It's a nice feeling.
It is. It is. I feel like in any other musical genre, I wouldn't even be old. I'd be dead. But here, I'm still the young guy. I'll take it. So along with Rory, we have Celia, who I met at FAI Unlocked this year. And Celia, you and your partner, my band, for those that know me from my music days as opposed to this administrative days, my band was basically taking three names and putting it together and getting a band name out of it. And it literally was chosen just because it made you go, huh, you managed to do that and get a name that sounds cool. Mine just sounded like it made people get confused and therefore they remembered it. So that worked for us. But do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, you're muted. The official phrase of 2020.
Yes, I did that. So I didn't make any noise while you were doing your spiel. My name is Celia Chavez, and my partner's name is Simon Petty. So our duo is called Petty Chavez. And yeah, we're based out here in the Far West region.
Well, fantastic to have you. I just realized, Rory, I introduced you. I should let you introduce yourself. I'm putting you back in there. I'm mansplained you. I got to stop doing that.
It's all good. Hi, friends. I'm a singer-songwriter and lady beast from Long Island, New York. I'm also a community building nerd. When I see community that I wish was there and it's not there, I'm like, oh, I'll just create it. So that's my favorite thing to do. And that's all. Let's be friends.
Sounds lovely. And our final guest for the evening is Nalini.
Nalini, you got it.
Yes. Right. Nice. And I love your name. I love your name. I loved your name when I pronounced it the way I thought it sounded, and then you told me how it was actually pronounced, and now I love it more. So,
Yeah,
Nalini,
it
would you
looks
like to
almost
introduce yourself?
Hawaiian, like Nalini, but it's actually Sanskrit, and it means blue lotus. It's my hippie name, and I am old, and I still feel young in this crowd.
Well, good to have you, and good for you to bring that youthful energy for us
Yeah.
old bums. So that is our general introduction. I wanted to just sort of get you guys started, and mostly I'm going to hang out and listen to you talk, because the entire art of making the most of a conference it's a thing. And I've been going to these conferences for a while, not as long as some, but much longer than others. And I find that there are a lot of people that just show up and they think things are going to happen. And I have found that those people are always upset. The three of you were chosen for tonight because you didn't do that. And you've actually approached this strategically. So why don't we start in reverse order from how you were introduced? And Nalini, would you like to sort of start us out with making the most of conferences?
Well, it is interesting because my husband and I spent 10 years owning a trade show called Showbiz Expo. And this was for exhibitors and attendees in the film production business, film and television production business, called Showbiz Expo. And, we spent a lot of years training our exhibitors how to get the most of a conference, so it's very similar to that. If you can plan in advance something you'd like to feature as part of maybe some goals you want to set, and do the advance work, that can pay off quite a bit. My first Far West, I've only gone twice, but in 2018, I made a serious commitment to myself to dedicate a lot more time to my music. And so I recorded a demo of 8 songs. And so I put together a small EP to hand out at Far West. And so before the event, being in production on that, and then during the event, making sure I handed it out to 50 people, who I had figured it out, who I wanted to approach. That gave me a calling card. And it's just like being at a conference. You want to leave them with some information, or make real the contacts that you make there, so that you can follow up afterwards. So I think that's one thing that's really important is planning to have some goals and strategically, be prepared to implement them on site.
That is all very good points, and a good way of approaching it. Celia, would you like to continue that thought?
Sure. Actually, it's funny because I am quite new to conference going. I had been to South by Southwest kind of as a tag along to go see some artists, but 2019 was my first Far West, and Nalini, I did it. I'm so sorry. Nalini, I remember meeting you in the hallways, and we ended up there because I had, in 2018, when we started working together as a duo, I had started looking into trying to book house concerts and trying to book certain kinds of gigs. And I kept getting the response of, oh, are you going to be at Far West? Because that's how we learn about who we book. And because I had no idea. I guess I'm maybe of value in this panel as a newbie-ish, I mean, fairly new. And I agree with Nalini, I really didn't know what to do. But once I found the conference and I started reading up on it, we registered, and then there was a kind of a directory available. We heard about the showcases. I definitely recommend that, to people who may be looking at these conferences for the first time, that, the official showcases and some of the official stuff for the conferences get cemented months in advance, a few months in advance. And so having a plan and knowing that it's going to, for the official showcases, you have to submit a ways in advance, and you have to take note of deadlines and that sort of thing. We had to learn that. but I definitely agree again with being, courageous and positive with yourself about putting yourself out there. We didn't really know how things would work, and we're lucky, Ethan, because stuff kind of just happened for us. But I think it's because we just kind of were walked in open, and we came in from kind of the rock and pop. I'm a professional backup singer, and
Mhm.
so I'm coming from singing with arena bands and that sort of thing, and touring on a bus, and this is a much more intimate world, and so we were a little bit like, do we fit in? And to anyone who's not sure if they fit in, I would invite you to just kind of check it out. This year is an amazing year for being able to go to the regional conferences. They're all super affordable. It's all virtual, so there isn't the travel cost associated with this year in the regionals, and that's hugely valuable as far as like getting to know the people who attend the conferences, the bookers, the journalists, the DJs, management people, and just the people on the boards and other musicians in other areas of the country that maybe we haven't been able to get to because of the pandemic. Anyway, I don't know if that was all over the place, but as a newbie,
No, I
you
think I
know,
think I think that's great. And what I took away from that is something that I find is probably a universal truth among musicians, is sometimes to stand out the most, you have to sort of be the one that's there to listen.
yes,
And
I agree with that.
you know, in particular, you coming in without that huge agenda of I need to be heard, I need to be heard, I need to be heard, but sort of trying to figure out what it was about, may have in fact opened more doors for you than the people that tried to go the other route.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also agree that like right now, and Ethan, I know that we've been having conversations about this now, the folk world, the folk community is kind of shifting a little bit and opening up a little bit. And I honestly did not traditionally see myself in this community, but it was made really, really clear for me in 2019 that the arms were open for us. And the support that we got, I just posted on Facebook, letting people know about this panel, that we've been so supported. We probably wouldn't have survived the pandemic without this community, and so we were really lucky that we went for the first time in 2019.
That's really wonderful to hear. I know running into you two at FAI, that was a real high point for me. I loved just
Us
sort of
too.
getting to know you guys better. And as much as I'd love to continue talking about this, I also really want to hear from our third panelist, who is just a powder keg of a person, and I adore her, and I want to hear more.
Cool.
Rory, you're
Uh,
up.
so I will tell you the first conference I did and didn't prepare for. The first conference I went to, I prepared in terms of I poured through the website. I looked to see what was available. I made a list of what I wanted to get done at the conference. That's a big piece of preparing is yourself, like
Yeah.
so me, I was like, what are my goals for the conference? Which I think goal setting in general is something that people kind of have like a lot of one size fits all goals for an indie musician and a lot of to-do lists that are generated as a result from that. So it's really important to me to tell other musicians like sit with yourself and identify your own goals. You don't have to have the I guess this is my goal kind of goals. So I did the goal setting and I did the looking at the conference like information and data on the website and stuff, but I like wasn't a big member of the community beforehand. I didn't know. I knew like couple of people who told me like come to Nerva, you'll love it. I didn't know about the gorillas. I didn't know about showcases. I like got in way too late to submit to any of that. So I showed up and I knew nobody. And I will say, when you are unprepared, the way to be your own backup plan is to know how to talk about yourself. When you are asked to have like a one sentence description of who you are and what you do and kind of why should someone care. And it doesn't have to be, by the way, like it doesn't have to encapsulate everything. It doesn't have to tell the whole story. If it's enough to, like you said, Ethan, like your band name made people confused and therefore people ask questions. I describe myself as a singer-songwriter lady beast. No one has any idea what type of music I'm talking about when I say that, but the right person is interested.
Yes.
So that's important. Knowing how to describe yourself and talk about yourself to new people. and having something that will roll off your tongue because you've said it so many times before, and being willing to put yourself out there and make friends. My first conference, I knew next to nobody. It was a super busy time. I was like overwhelmed, and I just like went down to the lobby and started walking up to people with my guitar and said, let's do a song circle. Does anyone want to do a song circle with me? And that's how I made my first 5 friends at NERFA.
I knew that there was a reason that we get along as well as we did, Rory, and I think it's because our experience in conference land is relatively similar. What I love particularly about this group is we've got 2 people that are relatively new to this conference, our conference world, not music conferences in general. I think, Celia, you probably had some experience in other South by Southwest is certainly its own monster. But what I find so interesting is, Rory, I've seen you within the community have your sort of existence grow very seismically without ever seeing, like, I know I'm not saying that you aren't putting effort in, you clearly are, but I'm not seeing you demand, you being one of the people sitting out there demanding attention. You're getting it in a very organic way. And I think, Celia, what you sort of talked about, which is coming, being honestly curious and sort of stepping into that space. And Nalia,
Nalini.
I'm getting it. I swear. We've got 2 of these tonight. By the second one, I'm going to be a pro. I swear.
Just use it in a sentence.
Nalini Colony and yeah, like my brain just kept going and being like, no, that can't be. No, it is anyway. So the Nalini, you described sort of this preparation where you came and you basically were able to say, yeah, here's who I am, here's what I'm doing, in sort of a simple way. You know, I was part of, in my earlier days at NERFA, they invited us to be on the newbie panel. You know, the talking people through what to do their first time. And we always would make people in the audience. Well, we offered people in the audience the opportunity to get up and give us their elevator pitch. And my role was, you're not allowed to use the word unique, because it always drove me insane when someone would be like, I'm an undefinable musician who's unique in every way. And I'd be like, you can't say that. And they'd be like, why? And I'd be like, because I swear the next person right after you was going to say the exact same thing and is now scrambling to find something else to say. But Rory, you sort of had this perfect way of encapsulating that, which is you didn't try to sell them everything you do. You gave them a quick description with something just quirky enough to make them be like, wait, what? And it works really well.
And it turns some people off, and that's important. Like, we need to not be afraid of turning people off, because the people who are like, oh, I don't know, that sounds a little like not my kind of thing. It's like, well, do you really want to try to court those people? Or do you want to just spend your time with people who are excited about what you're doing, you know?
I mean, I don't want anyone listening to my music that's afraid of lady beasts. So, so I really love that all 3 of you, I think, inadvertently shared relatively similar advice from slightly different angles. But I sort of appreciate that. I figure we can sort of pivot the conversation specifically, and I know at least one of you can speak to virtual conferences and sort of how to approach that, because Celia, that's how I met you, and you left an impression. And I not only took down your and Simon's names, but I literally had you on a list of, I'm going to be doing online shows and online events, and I want to follow up with these people. So do you want to sort of talk us through how you got there?
How we got to the online conference?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the only way we were going to go to Folk Alliance this year, because it was only online. I think that we, what did she say about that? You know, it was interesting because we didn't know what to expect in a virtual conference. And Folk Alliance had done this really cool thing where while you were waiting for an event or waiting for a mentor session, there was like a virtual green room. And it was just like a big old Zoom room, and you could see everybody, you could see their names. People were encouraged to this is key, I think, is that don't be afraid to get in the chat in these virtual conferences, because I know that I reconnected with another musician who I saw there who I hadn't seen in years, and we have been talking, since then. It's a way to introduce yourself, and maybe like if you have a showcase you can put it, if it usually, I think, check out the vibe, but, it's a way to let people know who you are, what, when you're going to play. And, I don't, it was just kind of a cool, and people were joking around, and it was strangely human. They were able to make it a pretty human experience for how weird it was. I guess I want to say, and synthetic, as it was kind of a synthetic experience, but it ended up people wanted to connect. I think that was in what, January of this year, or
Yeah, January,
February.
February, March, somewhere in there. In the
And so we'd
cold
all been
times,
locked up for a long, yeah. And
I recognize for our California friends that might not resonate quite the same way it does here. But for me, I remember being like, yeah, I mean, there's a foot and a half of snow outside. I may as well go to a virtual conference.
yeah, I mean, but even that was interesting. It was like, what's, it's snowing here. Oh no, we lost our power last night, and we're just,
Yeah.
so it is a way to connect in the chat. And just exactly what Rory said. It's the same thing. It's a lot of the same things. Look up the panels, look up in panels. I know people were commenting, and I was commenting, and if it resonated with someone, they would get in touch with you. There was a message. I don't know if the regional platforms for the conferences are going to have like messaging. Are we going to be able to DM people who we see at the conference, or?
I can't speak for all the regions. I can only speak for two, but I can speak for two.
Okay,
For
right.
both NERFA and West, yes, you can
Okay.
direct message people if they're in the same space. One of the functionalities that I think we'll have up and running. I don't know yet, but I think we'll have up and running is if you see someone in a chat room and you know them, you can actually request to immediately kick off a one-on-one video.
Oh, into like a
Um,
breakout session?
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
one of the functions that we're kind of pushing is all of our formal showcase artists are going to be recording their sets ahead of time, but we're requesting that the artists be there for their set playing. So if someone's like, man, that 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 Celia Chavez is absolutely fantastic. I want to know more about her. You could pop up in the room being like, hey, I'm here. Want to talk about it? And just, take it
Great.
from there. So, that's one of the little things we're hoping to be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And thank you for making that possible, because I'll tell you guys, I just went to I went to the Americana Music Conference 2 weeks ago, and it was really odd because some of the international people couldn't be there because of
Mhm.
travel restrictions. A lot of people stayed away because the COVID numbers in Nashville were really high, and like that actually, I felt like I met more people online at Folk Alliance at the virtual conference, because there were ways to contact each other, and you could, and people were just present, who were tuning in.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, one of the things that I find interesting is I think online performance isn't going away. Like I don't believe it's necessarily going to be 90% of what we all do, but as a thing, it's not going away. I mean, I know a number of artists that are basically saying, yeah, February and March are absolute pains in the butt to be a traveling musician in the Northeast when you've got blizzards potentially every week. That'll be my stay at home, write songs, and perform online time. So there's sort of an evolving way of looking at how you can approach your career. And I think that's healthy. Like the fact that I'm hearing that from people on both sides of the food chain sound like that's cool. I like the evolution there.
I can also
Alan,
say on the online conference, it was really cool at the international that you could go back and listen to other performances. Otherwise in the hotel setting, if you missed that show, that was it. And so I found myself checking back into the website and looking at all these artists that I would have missed. It was fantastic.
And panels
And
too,
then,
right?
so often I would, in fact, there was this one duo, I think they were from Ireland. I was so impressed with their music and followed, and I hadn't even heard them live. I heard them on the recording. And I sent them a note later. I found their address, and then I invited them to join my women's song circle that I have. It used to be at my home, but now it's virtual. So now we have women from different time zones, you know, who can check in. And, you know, that was just fantastic. I would never have met them otherwise or heard them.
Yeah, and that's I think that's part of that evolution is the fact that, you know, I recall plenty of times that I'd pick a panel because there were always 5 panels going on at a time, and I'd walk in and be like, "Oh, I'm really excited about this." In about 15 minutes, and I'd be like, "Oh, I chose the wrong panel. I really should have gone to that." And you get out of the panel and you're like, "Yeah, I guess I made the wrong choice." And someone's walking out of the room across from you, being like, "That was the best thing I ever saw." So that's sort of a nice evolution of this. I think Deb is Deb Ewing. I'm going to guess is the pronunciation of your name. Who is here is feeling the same sort of tendency in trying to train the audience to sort of work within that framework. So Rory, I know you've done some online shows, and why don't we sort of talk about that? And I'd be interested if any of you guys have sort of thought about conference participation as it relates. And I just realized, as wonderful as Deb is, she is absolutely blocking you, Celia, and that's not cool. I'm going to take that away. And you are not Nalini, so now you're you again. I said it right. Did I say it? I said Nalini, right?
You did.
I did? Okay.
You
All right.
did.
If you correct me when I'm right, then I'm really going to go nuts.
I was thinking of harmony.
Okay. But I'd be interested in how, you know, this year in particular, I think there's some people that are thinking about conferences and saying, well, what's the point? People aren't booking, or, you know, I'm not going to get that festival booking that I wanted to get because the festival might not even happen. Do you have have you thought it from that perspective, and where are you sitting in sort of your acknowledgement of that?
I think I feel personally like it's an opportunity to be a little bit of a big fish in a smaller pond at a virtual conference. There's a subset of people who are going to go, and there are a subset of people who are going to be stressed about the technology. Deborah was talking about training people to use it, and which definitely I've been doing some training of my fans of like, here's how you do it. There are people who are not going to be comfortable with a virtual conference. The few people that are comfortable with it, like, we're going to pack bond like crazy, especially because I think people bond when they are confused. And there are going to be people who are like, how do I get into this? I don't know. And that's actually, I've made a lot of friends at NERFA in person asking for directions. And like that same kind of thing is at play. We all have a thing to talk about. We already have this natural topic of conversation of, isn't this weird? Have you ever done a virtual conference before? And those of us who attend, and like the three of you were all at the virtual FAI, and you guys are like, hey, remember this? You know, we'll have that really special thing so that when it becomes in person again, then we've got this greater reach and greater breadth than we had before. So I think it's amazing. And I think that when people know you're good at digital, people think of you for digital. And that's something that those of us artists who are comfortable doing a live stream thing, or who have probably gotten comfortable over the last year, you know, those opportunities when people are like, oh, I want to do a live stream, we have to do this right, we can't do this looking kind of, you know, half baked. They're going to think of the person who like looks and sounds good on screen out of the box, who they met at the conference, who they know they can just work with easily. And that's a real benefit, I think.
Yeah, really well put. And I think the sort of creating a different version of your product is just creating a different form of monetization. Like the fact is, for so many of us, even if we're even for the road warriors, you weren't really playing a show on a Tuesday, or at least you certainly weren't doing it 30 or 40 times a year. You know, you were lucky if you could get one here and there. For a lot of us, that was the night that if you were on the road, like maybe you look for an open mic feature or just something to do to get to the other thing, unless you're backing up a stadium artist. You know, I'm assuming days of the week don't matter as much. I don't know. I'm joking. But the sort of idea that people can jump online, and I think there are really wonderful examples of artists that have used this time period and created an audience that has changed the way we interact, in the sense that, you know, if you had a diehard fan, so I'll pick on. I already picked on Celia, so I'm just going to go back and pick on Celia again because I may as well be consistent here. Um, if Petty Chavez was out touring 5 months a year, I'm making stuff up, and we can correct it if we want to, but we don't need to. And you're hitting the same region 3 or 4 times a year, maybe. Depending on where you're going. Like the fans that you cultivate, how many times are they going to see you a year in sort of our old model?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point because I think that it definitely would not be as much. I mean, we have people who tune in, and we were doing one live stream a month that internationally, and we certainly couldn't tour and play the same areas once a month.
Yeah.
And granted, some of those people, we were supposed to do a tour in the UK in March of 2020, which didn't happen. And so, did become a great way of just like keeping people's attention. We would hear, obviously, because no one could go see shows, we would hear that it was a date night, for people to tune into our shows. And how often can you do that when you go to a club? And as a result, they really would donate, what they would spend on a night out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I don't know how sustainable that is now that other things there are other choices for people. Mm-hmm. But certainly the frequency of engagement with our fan base has been amazing,
And I think what I'm seeing in it is, I think it's human nature to feel like there's a competitive thing going on when in fact often there isn't. And what I find interesting about this is those fans that have decided that they're going to tune in every week to see you come hell or high water.
Every month.
No, sorry, you know what I mean? Every month or whomever. Like there are different artists. Ellis Paul's been doing 2 to 3 shows a week for, a year. Adam Ezra, I don't know if you guys know this. He's a Boston guy. So I apologize for picking on him. The first day of quarantine, he got on and played an hour-long show. And at the end of the hour, he said to the 500 people that showed up, "Hey guys, this is kind of scary. I'll make a deal. If you come back tomorrow, I will too." And he's celebrating his 520 some odd straight daily concert with, this huge thing. So there really is this intensity to the relationship that none of us had that opportunity beforehand. And along those lines, and now I'm going to pick on my favorite name that I'm always going to be convinced, even when I get it right, that I'm wrong, Nalini. I'm tossing you in here because you are finding you are using this opportunity not just to talk about your music and to do your music, but you're promoting other musicians. Like you're doing a good job of that kind of thing.
I spent so much of the pandemic with open mics, song circles, conferences, collaborating online. I did a couple co-writes. I did one distance recording session. And, I also made a little specialty of trying to learn songs that I've been hearing that other people write, within my songwriting community, covering their songs. So it's been a real social whirlwind, and honestly, the pandemic and the election and everything that happened last year was so frightening. I really think this was a remedy that I sought out, and it was very helpful, to keep my sanity and my sense of humor. But I think with this year's virtual, I just decided to celebrate a lot of my old friends, new friends, people I'm just getting to know, and all 16 artists. I'm hosting 2 private virtual showcases, one on Friday, one on Saturday. So we have 16 acts, and my band, J&J Band, will kick it off on Friday, and then by Saturday night, I'll close and we'll make a song circle of it. And I just feel like this is my private campfire, because I love these people so much. We've weathered the storm together, and we've helped each other in countless ways. And it's helped me get to know them even better, and had the experience of learning StreamYard now, which is a platform for broadcasting these conferences. And I've
It's
been doing
really
sound checks all week, or for 2 weeks, I've been doing sound checks with all my artists. So I'm having to learn, the background graphics and, the Chiron at the bottom and all that stuff. It's very exciting. And I would encourage at the expense, $100, to be able to host your own showcase and book your own friends. It's a fantastic opportunity. I'd encourage everybody who is interested in hosting a PGS room.
And for folks who are interested in hosting either, we use slightly different language between Far West and NERFA. You guys call them the VP Virtual Private Gorilla
PGS, Private
VPGS.
Gorilla Showcase.
Yeah, we just call them Gorilla Showcases. We just
All
went
right.
with the similar name. But I have a commercial for yours, so we're going to run that, and you can show
Oh,
off and talk about
fantastic.
all the wonderful people you got.
That's great. That's a
Thank
great
you so
ad, Melanie.
much. Thank you so much. And the song is the instrumental track to a song I recorded that I wrote during the pandemic called "Scraps of Paper." So I even got a little sync deal out of it.
Fantastic. And we've got folks watching that are saying that they're considering hosting a PGS. I do, for the people that are interested in it, it really is a wonderful opportunity, because not only are you going to have the event that evening, but that event will live up within the event for a full year. So this is an opportunity not just to showcase yourself, but to showcase the other artists that you're building these relationships with, and that's always fun.
Yes, do it, Deb. Just do it.
Yeah, do the thing. It's so rewarding too. I do a weekly thing called Monday Night Muses every Monday night. I've been doing it for the whole duration of quarantine, and I have a different opener every week. And what's cool is now I have some built-in people. It's on Twitch, which talk about having to teach people how to use it. Twitch is a little bit much for some people, but it's a great platform if you get to know it. It's got a great personality. But what's cool is now I have people who tune in every week who love songwriters. And a songwriter goes on there and shares their songs, and they've got people in the chat making idiotic inside jokes, making puns, and also at the end of every song going like, that was so gorgeous, that was so amazing. And it's such a personal experience. It lets you give a new audience to another songwriter who then, will probably help you out in return. And it lets so much music disseminate in ways it really couldn't a couple of years ago. It's so special.
And Rory, that's honestly one of your superpowers on top of the Lady Beast thing, is you build community like an absolute monster, and it is it's really fun to watch, because you cultivate, you don't just introduce yourself to people, you introduce yourself to a group of people, and then you leave as a group. Like you are so very good at that. And in particular, I think the challenge of sort of the technical side, and I get for a lot of people that is a hurdle, because it is a hurdle. But the fact of the matter is, there are applications out there like StreamYard that make it far more accessible. And there are also there's this whole other thing that we're starting to see, and frankly, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a thing, like a real thing, which is the notion of a digital producer. someone whose literal job it is for you to call and say, hey, kind of like what we did with venues. Hey, I'm going to run a show, but I need you to take care of everything. I want you to be responding to the comments. I want you to be, focusing on the right person. So when the right person's talking, you make them big and give the little chyron that tells you who they are. And I think that's we're already starting to see some people do that. One of my favorite, one of the superstars, at least that I've seen, is Kelly Lynn Knox. Not rather. I don't know if you guys know her, but she's been doing virtually all of the shows for Susan Warner, for Jonathan Brooke, for Dar Williams, for she's been really doing weekly shows for this huge stable of artists who have fans that are watching every week and are known for the stability of it. So, for people that are interested in hosting a Gorilla Showcase, we're like, I don't know about that technical side. There are people you can hire to take care of the technical side.
Yep.
Well, and if not to hire, to people to collaborate with, and I think we've all been given the advice, you create a network and you all grow together.
Yeah.
And I think we found out on the online, everybody's sharing the technologies and the tips, and you can ask for help and people can go, okay, I'll co-host with you. I'll be the engineer, you be the MC,
Mhm.
and then you go, hey, maybe I know someone who's a graphic artist. Let's pull that person in. And just like if you're in a band and you have 4 members and one of them knows Facebook or one of them's on Instagram, the other one knows Twitter, you're going to really be able to make progress with your marketing. Same thing with PGS. Build a team and do it together.
Yeah. And,
Definitely.
it's what I'm looking forward to sort of the most. I love panels. For anyone that knows me from NERFA, my thing at NERFA is I've been running the programming committee forever. I finally suckered Rory in to join it with me, and I'm going to try in the next year to convince her to take it over. And eventually, I'm just going to
Breaking news.
run NERFA.
Bold move there, Ethan.
If you do it live in front of people, it makes it that much more awkward if you say no.
Right.
No pressure.
It's like one of those public wedding proposals.
Yeah.
We're in front of
High risk-
everyone. What are
high
you going to
risk.
say?
Yeah, high risk, high reward, or high, really, really awkward moment. Sorry.
But that makes great content.
It does. Nothing's better than the baseball stadium videos of the person getting down on their knee and having the other person be like,
Tomorrow. Let's talk about it.
But I really love programmatic, and I'm really, really proud of the panels that we've got going for NERFA. And I think, and I want to call her out by name, Julie Zipperer, who's the director of Far West, has done a absolutely spectacular job in what she's put together for her programming.
Yeah.
So, that stuff's really important. But the Gorilla Showcases are usually the best place to connect to other people, even virtually. And StreamYard really gives that the opportunity, because you can have a show where you can have Celia performing, and you put Celia up there and Celia's performing. And as the other artists in the round, we can be sitting there. And when Celia's done, we can be like, yeah, that was great. And get to sort of have that facsimile of a live feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking while we're all talking about it, because we've all. Oh, there's Simon. Sorry.
Hey, Simon!
Sorry.
It's the petty part of Chavez.
That's the petty part of Chavez. But I was thinking, like, everyone on this panel got right into the live streaming and all that last year out of necessity and urgency, and knowing that we, and some of our friends, in the community, just thought it would be over sooner. and so I feel like this year there's that second wave of people, learning the technology and getting comfortable with the idea of a virtual conference and live streaming, and like what Nalini's talking about, the PGS, the whole PGS stuff, and just coming to the conferences. It's such an opportunity to get help with that. I mean, we're doing a PGS room too, and it's kind of fun to be like, after the tech check, and I get that people say, well, what can I do to make it sound better? And And then the next day they're like, I ordered a Mackie USB mixer. And you're like, oh my gosh. And people,
A
you know,
mixer, huh?
yeah. But at first I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I'm like, yeah, that guy's committing to his music and to his career. And that's going to expand his ability to be out there and to come to things like this,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm as a fan, as much as a member of the community, like I've always been concerned about what does the end of a career look like as a folk musician, because at a certain point, trying to be on the road for 200 days a year is simply not a comfortable goal to shoot for. And what this change in my mind has offered is an opportunity for artists, established artists, to say, yeah, I'd love to still be able to interact, but I can't, I don't want to be on the road and doing that quite as much. It's an opportunity to build up that fan base, and through tools like Patreon. I mean, I won't call them out by name, but I know an artist that for the first time in a 30-year career is making a salary. And that's
Powerful.
amazing. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
it makes me hopeful for everybody. That was a slight tangent. I apologize. I got all misty-eyed about stuff. But to sort of circle back to sort of conference stuff, from a technical perspective, one of the other things that I'm excited about with West and with NERFA is exhibit halls.
Oh, yeah.
The ability to sort of set up shop and have a home base, not just for our vendors, which is also important. Like, it is important that we're able to pull in vendors to sort of show off all this stuff, because we're all dealing with all of this new technology, which, by the way, my guy at B&H will probably shoot me if I don't do this. NERFA has been working with B&H Photo all year. They've sponsored a number of our programs, and we've given away over $2,000 to folk musicians for various competitions, thanks to them. And we've actually gotten to the point where if you're looking at saying, I want that Mackie mixer, like Celia pointed out, or I'm going to get a USB mic, or I'm thinking about getting into this, we work with a wonderful man named Christian Domek, who is our rep at B&H. And if you are interested in moving in that direction, you can basically write him and tell him what you're looking to do and give him a budget, and he'll come back to you and be like, here's what I'd recommend. Here's a great way to save some money. And here's a great way if you gave me this budget knowing that you were planning on spending 20% more than this, but you just wanted to see what would happen. He's a really fun guy to work with. So if you're interested, bh.org.
I got a lot of value out of the exhibitors at the International, and had some great talks with distributors. Really glad I did, because I was about to switch, and I met a representative from my current distributor, and I found realized I was in the right place. And also with BMI was there, had a really good discussion with them and made a good contact. I was wondering if we could maybe put up a list of the exhibitors that are going to be at the two shows, because again, if people know that that's something that they want to accomplish, they can kind of make sure it's on their to-do list.
Well, had you asked me about a half hour before this, I probably could have gotten that ready. As of right now,
maybe for the
I'd like to
second
think that I'm
panel.
magic. Maybe the second panel. That is your
Yeah.
reason to tune in for a second round in
you go.
2 hours. I'll see what I can get. But there are a number of outside vendors that are going to be taking part. And there are also musicians and organizations that are buying spaces to sort of show off what they're working on. And the mechanism that we have for exhibit halls for West and for NERFA is actually pretty robust as far as what you can do with it. And I was supposed to have this all queued up to show you guys, but I'm going to pretend that it's all queued up and just talk nonsense while I actually get it ready to go. And hopefully type the right thing so I don't have to repeat myself. All right. So if folks are interested in getting a feel for what the conference is going to look like, I actually went ahead and I created a completely fake conference. Nothing about this conference is real. It is absolutely positively fake. And I just put it at our inside chat. Now I'm supposed to put it in our outside chat so people can get to it. tribalmischief.com/conference. So you can go there. You have to buy a ticket, but it's a free ticket. And I just want you to do that so you can get used to the mechanism if you have questions about it. And if you do that, yoink. And I just shared that in the good old chat. And here's what it is in and of itself. And here's the sharing. I am sharing so many things. This is so awkward. Oh, everyone's waiting on me. I feel so bad. Hold on.
It's like when you're trying to tune a guitar string that just won't go in tune.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell another dad joke.
Uh-huh. And the best part's when it really gets to you in your head and you're trying to talk, but you can't talk anymore. Like it's not making sense because your head's so on the thing you're trying to do. So if you go in here, you get the free ticket, you enter your access code, and this is more or less what it's going to look and feel like. The conference itself will be a main stage. We'll have a running link of our vendors and supporters there. You'll have your stages for day 1, day 2, Guerrilla showcases. So if you're hosting a Guerrilla showcase like Nalini, you would go in there and you would see her Guerrilla showcase, and you just click on it. If it was live, it would start playing right away. If it already is played, you'd go in there and start it from there, and that's how it would work. But the sponsor stuff is even more fun. So if you have a sponsor, you can, or if you are an exhibitor, whether you're a external visitor or external exhibitor, or internal, external being vendors, or internal being musicians, you can go in there and you can show off yourself as Petty Chavez and go in and you can preload that with some of your music videos for people to check out, along with the lovely picture of you and the group description. You can have a ongoing live chat. This Tribal Mischief guy loves your music so much. And you can have a sponsor lead sheet where you can literally just say, yeah, I want to join this mailing list. And because the system already knows your name and your email, all you have to do is say, yeah, add me to your mailing list. Click, and you're done. I just joined your mailing list twice. So that's all there. And you can literally just play the videos, have it all queued up and ready to go. So for artists, this is a great way to kind of showcase what you've done, how you've changed through the weirdness that has been the last year and a half. And it's a great opportunity if you're a showcaser, if you are a showcaser or a presenter, a great opportunity for you to show people how you're dealing with things and what you're doing. So, for the Club Passeems and the Cafe Linas that have really sort of figured out this virtual way of doing things, it's a really sort of great opportunity to show that off.
Yeah, and you know what? I can speak to when we went to our first Far West, we were really aware that nobody knew who we were, and we actually invested in. They had booths and half booths in the physical exhibition hall, and we met a bunch of people that way, just because we were one of few artists in that exhibition hall. We met the Zippers. That was pretty life-changing from Far West. And we met an artist named Lisa. Oh my gosh, I'm spacing on her last name. Lisa Richards from Australia. How would we have met her except that we were sitting next to each other. And so of course you're going to chat each other up. And, it can be there can be some total unexpected benefits to that. And definitely I love the features of the virtual, it just puts all your stuff in there. That's all the stuff that we would have had on the table on our laptop,
And that was sort of the idea behind it. And along the lines of sharing tables, what we basically did is the place to buy an exhibit table for vendors and the place to buy an exhibit hall for artists are in two different places. And we charge artists half of what we charge other people. So essentially, they are getting a half table, or they're getting that preferred price. That being said, if you wanted to go in and get a table as a dual artist, you could. You are only going to get one video library and one bio and all of that stuff associated with it. But just for anyone that's interested in saying, well, I used to be able to do this, but can I still do it? Yes-ish.
Cool.
All right, I talked a lot. I would love for what did we not talk about that we should have talked about?
I had a thought is that I do run into artists that are still really nervous about the technology, and especially that they feel intimidated by using, well, first of all, being alone, instead of having their band with them. And then, maybe their microphone isn't the right one, or they don't have an Ethernet connection, and, they don't want to have that lower quality of sound. And I just was just wondering if either of you, or if any of you had some comments you might want to pass along in regards to that learning curve that is so steep, but because of the pandemic, we're racing through something we hadn't expected we were going to have to learn. And now, like you said, there's a new wave coming up. How do we help them get over some of the fears?
I would say for starters, go watch some people streaming. You'll see such a variety. You'll see people who are amazing, and you'll see people who really don't have their stuff together and who still have community around them. And it's like, people are understanding.
Still amazing.
But what most people neglect to know is like our smartphone is usually the best camera and usually the best microphone that we have out of the box if we haven't put time into our studio. I'm obviously spoiled. Like, I've got a home studio here. I'm running my audio through a Pro Tools session and all of that. But that evolved over 2020. And the important thing, I think, is for people to be able to say, let me take one step. And that one step might be like, let me get a tripod for my phone instead of propping it against a book so it falls over halfway through. And then after that one, take one more step. It can be a slow evolution. And doing something simply but well is always a good option. Like, you don't have to go all out the first time. You can have it be a slow growth thing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with Rory. And ask questions. I mean, if you have friends who are live streaming, just ask what's the easiest way to get to the next level. I mean, maybe it's, if you have an Ethernet, why don't you have an Ethernet connection? Is it because you don't have an Ethernet port? Well, you can get an adapter.
Yep.
Do you not have a mic? You don't want to get the whole interface DAW situation. Get a USB mic, and there are USB mics that will use really great. Definitely, your phone will work to get started, and maybe it's more about making sure your room is treated, which is not hard to do. Lay down some blankets. So be courageous about just asking questions, because absolutely, it's really about performance, and the best sound that you can get. It doesn't have to sound like those of, I mean, I'm just right now doing this because I'm not in my studio today, but to do this talk. But so, it's possible that there are things that you can do that are not so intimidating and just get you better than where you are now.
So because we got the question from one of the folks watching who's been having some challenges with the technology, Bill Goodell jumped in to thank you, Nalini, and said that he shared in a couple of the comments his frustration in some of this stuff.
Can I add one more thing while we're on that topic, though?
Sure.
One of the things I learned was you could get an adapter for your cell phone.
Yes.
So this goes into my cell phone, and then the USB goes into my USB mic.
I've got one too for my
iPad. So it's not so you can you still use your cell phone for the picture, but have a better mic.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think, and man, oh man, am I aware of the
and it needs the power.
I'm aware of the hypocrisy of me saying this, because I've got more gear than any human being should. The gear isn't going to make you a better performer. And frankly, what the people that are really knocking it out of the park during the pandemic with streaming, they're not doing it because they have the best microphone. They're not doing it because they have the best lights. They are doing it because they are doing it and they are practicing it. I mentioned Adam Ezra earlier. Adam has an $80 USB mic. He has crossed the country 3 times this year, literally on a Wi-Fi connection on his phone with that single USB mic, done a show on the highway, and he had 10,000 people watch that video in the first week. So the idea that you need to have this heavy level of investments is just not true. Work on yourself, work on your product, and if you become a better performer, the gear becomes less and less relevant. And when you get to a point where the gear really is what's holding you back, that's a great time to invest in it. But if you do the first part, anyway.
Yeah. Don't let the gear get in the way of connecting too. If you're like pressing so many buttons, and like I've seen you, Ethan, be like moving titles around like it's a party trick and stuff. And I do it too in my live streams. I also use StreamYard. I love it. But if you're doing so much of that you can't like focus on the people in the chat and the songs that you're doing and the communication that you're doing, then it's not compelling. At the end of the day, it's a connection, and it's a little better than a connection in person in this way. Everyone can connect. People can go nuts in the chat. You can ask a question and get 15 people telling you, like how they feel about something. And there's your stage banter. You don't have to make up stage banter anymore. And people love it because they feel included. So if you're warm and you're connecting, like you're doing it right at the end.
Absolutely. And such a really wonderful point. I think the only other thing that I'd throw out there as it relates to gear is, if you're going to get gear, think about what you don't have rather than what needs to be better. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of people that like, oh, I've just got this $80 microphone. I need an expensive microphone, or I've just got this, $50 webcam. I need an expensive camera. The fact of the matter is, I look good right now. I've got a very cheap webcam and a relatively cheap mic. I look good because I've got a really nice light that makes me look good. If I turn that light off, A, you probably won't even be able to see me. But B, now I look like everyone else. It's the light that makes the difference. Figure out what you are completely lacking and listen to what you've done. Learn from what you've done. Celia, you said room treatment, and so few people have thought of that. And I've tried to listen to some streams, but it's like listening to a ping pong match, because you hear them, they're like, I would la la la. It's Met Stadium. Anyway.
Yep. Also, watch your live streams. Like that will teach you a lot.
Gary, yes. Guerrilla Showcase will be available for viewing and listening after the NERFA weekend. They will be available and up on the NERFA event itself, which, if you have a standard ticket, is up for 30 days. If you have a deluxe ticket, is available for a full year. The Guerrilla Showcases will be up for the entirety of that time period. Sorry,
I need to confirm that with Far West too, whether or not the Guerrilla Showcases will be.
I believe they will.
You can confirm it with me because I'm the one running it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Because they're on our YouTubes or whatever, right? So
yeah,
after the conference, we can put them up.
So what I've been telling Guerrilla Showcase folks is, if they would like to make the performance public, I would probably wait 30 days. So I would put it up just for the event for the first 30 days. And then if you want to reuse the content yourself, then it's a fair time to do that. I would probably do that rather than immediately putting it up, just because your goal is funneling people that are in that space to it.
Right.
One of the things that threw me off at the FAI Guerrilla Showcases, there were a lot of people that were sending to the Guerrilla Showcase, but they were also sending to a YouTube channel, and also sending to Facebook, and also sending to that. And, here are people watching a performer being like, I want to see what this is about. And they're responding to comments they can't see from a different page. So just my 2 cents on that.
That's great that you keep them up.
Yes, it is a virtual front row seat. Really good call.
Peter Lindorf, great guy. All right.
Wow.
We're at about an hour 10. I will, I'll let the folks watching know that if they have questions, now's a great time to ask them. And I will go around the room real quick, and we'll do it in the reverse order of how we were introduced. So we'll let Rory start, and if there are any sort of final thoughts you have, go for it.
My big rule of thumb for life, I'm actually like an introvert with social anxiety, by the way. And so, like, me creating community, it's hilarious. My big rule of thumb is the best way to have a friend is to be a friend. Ask a question to someone if you want to get to know them, act interested. If they seem like they need help, offer to help if you can help, you know? The easiest way to build community in your life and around what you're doing is just to care what other people in your vicinity are doing. And naturally, connections will happen, and it isn't that scary, actually. It just sort of works out. So remember that applies virtually as well as in person.
Awesome. Celia, I think you are next in the order that I can barely remember, so I could be wrong.
Well, Rory, that was really lovely. I love what you said. I will say that one of the things I did before jumping into this conference world of Folk Alliance, I heard from Dan Navarro, who's been very active in Far West and Folk Alliance for many years, and he said, Celia, he said, if you sustain this community will sustain you. And I feel like this was so revolutionary to me, coming from the very commercial pop and rock and roll world, where it's highly competitive and it's highly visual and it's highly ageist. I'm gonna say it. That this is an inclusive world, and I feel like not enough people who are like me don't necessarily traditionally see themselves in this community will be surprised at the room that is there for you. And so that's a different paradigm for a music world, music industry, or whatever you want to call it, that this community has audiences who want to hear songs. This is so important for artists like all of us. They want to hear great musicianship, and they love being a community, and it's so amazing. So for the investment, it's not. I know that I heard from someone that there are people who are reluctant to come to these conferences because they feel like showcasing feels like pay to play. And it's just not the right way to approach it. This is an industry. It's like coming to a trade show and showing people who you are, and being able to be fully who you are, in your music. So I hope that's helpful to somebody.
I think that's lovely. I think that's really lovely. And we'll let Nalini take us home. And
I just know that, as I said, in the last year, it's been a remedy for me to have this online experience. And, for $30, you can't beat this. And I don't know if we'll ever have it exactly the same way, but I would take this opportunity to register to any of the regional events. It's a great way to spend a weekend, and you will meet people, and you will hear a lot of fantastic music and learn some new tricks. So I recommend being there.
Well, I am in complete agreement there. I will be attending Far West. I will be attending Farm, which is 2 weeks after that. I will be attending NERFA because they'd probably get mad at me if I didn't show up 2 weeks after that. But there's a lot of really good stuff going on. I did note a question that was asked by Cheryl Kaywood in the chat as far as how do they find if any PGSs are still available. If the question is whether there is still an opportunity to host a PGS, there are still a few open for West, and there are still a reasonable number open for NERFA because we're not for another month. But if you're interested, by all means, you should absolutely do that. If you're asking if there are spots available for performances, I believe that there is essentially a matchmaking thing going on at the Far West Friends Facebook group. And NERFA, similarly, if you go to NERFA Talk, that's a good place to sort of let people know that you're there and looking for stuff and see what you can do. And I know one of the hosts actually posted this morning, who's got a wonderful showcase called Anything But Guitars.
Oh, nice.
So I definitely recommend everyone check that out. A lot of really great stuff. If there aren't any more questions, anyone have any go backs? Any last words?
Thank you so much for inviting us, Ethan,
Yeah,
for
thank
everything
you.
that you
Thank
do
you.
in putting this together.
Oh, that was that. I would have picked you, but I didn't know you. Julie is the one that set you up, and she picked really well with both of you. Rory's my fault, or however you want to put it.
If you're mad about me, see him.
I still do the entire. I always point in the wrong direction. I'm like,
I know. I'm like, nope. That's the way I meant.
Good job.
But we're gonna yeah. It is. Gotta love the reverse.
It's hard. I wonder if this will go up.
Nope, that was right on the screen.
It's just
That was good.
the port starboard thing. But thank you guys so much. We'll end with a couple of commercials for Far West and NERFA, and thank you guys for being here. And we'll see some of you again in a couple of hours.
Yep.
See you
Thank
soon,
you.
guys.
Let's talk about love with a capital L. When was the last time you heard it spelled?
This is a real treat to be able to just play again from the comfort of my home.
In the proper place.
And I haven't invested in this yet.
Whatever. Let's do it.
I'm glad you saw the vision.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to sum up.